So anyway, welcome to the TED Summit online conference. We have two old friends of TED Summit. We have Martin, who is the creator of Mation, and Sebastian, who is one of Mation's customers. So what better than to have the creator and a customer to talk about what Mation is all about. So Martin, over to you. Please provide an introduction about why you created this product.
It's quite some time ago that we started working on it. And to be honest, there's lots of no-code, low-code automation products, frameworks, open source around for quite some time. Recently, it's usually combined with AI.
Yeah.
There's a couple of big investments. And going back many years, we've been using in telecommunications projects Node-RED, the good old
Yes.
Node-RED. And it actually was, I would say, feature complete.
Yeah.
So basically, and the question basically for us goes back to the question, why would we change something that we called feature complete in our case? And I would say Node-RED is an open source project. I would call it low code.
Yeah.
You have to be an engineer to use it. You have to understand what you're doing. And starting from that point, you have a simple graphical user interface to model multiple applications being integrated in a flow.
Yeah.
Let's say taking some data, calling someone, doing something with it, etc., etc. So that's quite an old idea, and so let me try not to sell this. It's been around for a long time.
Yeah.
Then there were other things like Zapier was the first and big, like let's say the one big automation framework for people that would not necessarily be engineers. So you could, with some, let's say, tech-affine person, create quite interesting automations that before that time, you would have to buy products from IBM and others and have a bunch of engineers, pay a lot of money, spend a year on it, and then you might have an integration platform in some corporate environment. So for telecommunications, we did the Node-RED. And then we had some US American customers. I don't want to say the name, but and they asked us, there's this interesting Berlin company called Nodemation, I think spelled N8N. So we actually found out that there are other solutions we could use even in telco.
Yes.
And we found out the limitations as well. So and that was the point actually, knowing the topic, working with things that were actually well established and finding out new stuff. And then we found out that for telecommunications with the fancy stuff, so more user friendly, less engineering driven, there are limitations. And that was actually the reason why we started the project, to have an open source environment, which would be actually no code. That means you don't have to be an engineer. You don't have to be an expert. Let's say 80% of everything you want to achieve, you can achieve without, extra deep expertise. And we started at open source because we actually saw that the commercial or semi-commercial products were getting in telecommunications very expensive, because usually it is about the number of transactions. So that's basically the motivation why some years ago we started developing our own stack, knowing what was around, not trying to compete, to be honest, but trying to provide something that in telecommunications could be used. And so what is it? We were trying to be no code. I have to admit, 80% maybe. I don't know, that number is just, I don't know. You have to say some high number, but so I would say 80% you can actually do if you have some experience with no code. You can
exactly. And in your documentation, I think it's really nice. It's, hey, if you've got integrations, we do forms, we do basically webhooks, HTTP requests. It's easy, just do it. So there's a lot of help in your documentation for somebody that's maybe semi-skilled?
And then we integrate most of the CPaaS providers, to be honest.
Gotcha.
The usual suspect AI providers. So you can combine in telecommunications, for instance. I know we talked a lot about CPaaS, right, in many years now. And so what we did is like we integrated, pre-integrated the most relevant endpoints from the, let's say, the, I don't know by heart. I think we have a dozen CPaaS providers
Yeah.
and the usual suspects AI providers. So the in the core you can combine
Hmm.
without having like deep knowledge,
Yeah.
like any sending SMS feature with some any other AI provider and do something with it to
Yeah.
start with. But of course, this is not everything. It's just like to be within the let's say up-to-date discussions where everyone talks about AI and what you can do with it.
Yeah.
So we actually did decide not to call it something AI. So basically, well, and that's the story in short. So motivation was that the known no-code environments were not they were too expensive in telecommunications, let's say,
Yeah.
or not made for telecommunications, and they were not open source. So Node-RED is open source, active pieces is open source, but they're not specialized, let's say.
Yes.
And this is the reason. So we are not like something totally new. We are not something edgy, research, whatever. We're pretty standard, I would say.
Cool.
And I'm really proud that we can say that we are like, I would say, uh, pretty much close feature-wise to the big ones,
Hmm.
but specialized on telco. So
Understood. And you also have your own MCP server as well. Is that correct?
yes, you can actually. Um, that needs to be explained because
Yeah.
there are some providers they integrate MCP servers. Let's say
Yes.
like an integration, like what we call connected app, whatever,
Yes.
say
Yep.
Salesforce, CPaaS, etc. What we do, we expose everything the platform does via
Okay.
MCP. So you can
Gotcha.
integrate the core features of our platform to any AI chat, whatever environment that supports MCP, which is basically everyone today.
Yep.
So we actually expose integrations, flows, etc. So automations as an MCP. Uh,
Gotcha.
so
Yeah,
that's
which
basically
is,
it.
I mean, again, widely known. You're getting more and more developers that are experienced with it. Because, I mean, that's part of the challenge. In fact, for the latest TAD hack, we're doing that with VCON and their open source MCP server. That's the core of what we're asking developers to come and hack on,
Yeah, sure.
simply because it helps them in building apps that can sit in the stores we're now seeing on, for example, OpenAI, because they're all basically built on MCP.
You know, the good thing from an automation perspective is any application you have integrated and can use in an automation in any, not just us, in any,
Yeah.
and then you have an MCP server, you could actually you have a very, very simple way to expose those integrations as MCP,
Yes.
even if the, let's say, the products itself only, not only, but actually expose REST interfaces.
Yep.
So we of course go the standard REST API way, and then just have this, let's say, an action and trigger an action and maybe even a flow that is a little more complex. Then you can then actually just use it as MCP. So we are
Yep.
like the man in the middle that makes it easier, right? And
Exactly.
expose all these things as a via MCP to
Cool.
whatever, right? So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, absolutely. Now, do you see across your customer base? I mean, because there are some big established players. I mean, you got Appian, Mendix, oh,
yeah,
Siemens back in the day, and of course, Microsoft ServiceNow. Do you come across those guys, or is it more it's Node-RED and people are building out from there?
it's actually no. Actually, interesting. Node-RED. We haven't seen Node-RED for quite some time
Oh,
with
okay.
within the projects. Um, and since we're open source,
Yep.
we actually do not sell software.
Yep. Yep.
So we use it ourselves, and there's like hundreds of installations out there where we don't have any contact to, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And and then of course we use it in our own projects in the telco
Yeah,
space, which makes us like specialized because it comes that our customers can, like Sebastian is here, right? So he can
yeah,
talk for himself, but is something we have in the box,
yeah,
but we actually are not we're not actively like selling it to as many people as possible. We treat it as a AGPL3 open source environment,
yeah.
and there are lots of forks and lots
Yes.
of actually installations out there where people just use it, and some of them use it with heavy transactional use cases, let's call it.
Got it. Yeah.
And here we see that it actually picks up like they're and they use this because it's not getting expensive as soon as you, let's say, send hundred thousands of SMS, and
Yeah.
each SMS is not a bulk SMS with one job, but it's actually each SMS is sent via a transaction. Because if you do this, let's say with Mendix, or then you have to
Yes.
have an enterprise edition set up and pay licenses and they're not they're actually I don't know any product that does not go up in the price if you go in the high transaction area. So it doesn't have to be telco. Telco basically is just that we have a lot of typical telco integrations because that's what we do.
Yeah.
But as a matter of fact, it's the high transaction that
Exactly.
usually make it actually produces a lot of costs
Yes.
on the license side as well as on the infrastructure side. And so I would say we're pretty good in here because it's open source,
Yeah.
honestly, open source, and it is actually supporting the way it is developed and it can be deployed,
Understood.
supports high transactional
Hmm.
environments.
Yep. So then what led you to the pricing model that you have with basic, pro self-hosting? Because I can see there's a strong Germanic flavor as well as I guess, sort of sovereignty and meeting, GDPR plus, of course, the German variant in protecting customers' data.
Yeah, you caught me on that, right? So basically, it's a moving target.
Okay.
We are actually thinking to open source the whole stack, right? And
Oh,
not actually do any differentiation here. Of course,
interesting.
if what we see, all the relevant environments are self-hosted. So
Yep.
we so far we have not really met a lot of people who wants us to actually set up an environment. So they always ask, can I do this myself? And so, of
Yeah.
course, just
Yeah.
go to the documentation and do it, right? So,
Yeah.
and there, as I said, there are hundreds of organizations doing it already,
Yeah.
and so we're in the middle of the process to take away the pricing anyway.
Oh,
So to really, it will take some time
yeah.
because we have to rethink a couple of things in the
Yeah.
in the open source domain.
Yeah.
But we're planning to provide a fork where
Okay.
all the nice features will be without any barrier.
Hmm.
Because to be honest, we found out that we make much more money with providing services around it
Yes.
than we would make money with selling software
Yeah.
via licensees. So it was around from the beginning and the
Yeah.
open source idea. And yeah, I think it will take
Understood.
us a couple of few months, I would say.
Okay.
It's in the planning, so stay
Okay.
tuned
Gotcha.
until this
Yeah. No, no,
will be
no.
available
Yeah. Because
for
it's been
free.
interesting to see with, I mean, because we saw with Jambones, they released a commercial license finally. I mean, it's those that know David, that know Jambones, getting support was like it's a no-brainer. I need to
Yes, yes,
support
yes.
Dave. I need to
But it's a
support this project.
perfect example. Look at Jambones. They go from, I think, few euro per month
Yeah.
for one transaction
Yep.
or like at the time,
Hmm.
and go to, I think, as much as 2000 a month for unlimited. So to be honest, 2000 a month is 2 man days.
Yes,
So if you can sell 2 man days,
exactly. Oh,
and
yeah.
that's actually like, thanks for the example with jambons,
Yeah.
because that shows pretty much the situation. So if you're specialized, you can deal with it. I think from that perspective, it's easier to maintain an open source project for whatever is needed with
Yeah.
your projects and
Yeah.
make your money, actually not with some licenses, which you have to check on, you have to control, you have to make sure that the
Yeah.
license server works, is up and running, and everything is fine. People who pay money, whatever amount of money for software, assume that you support them 24/7, which
Yes.
is bullshit, basically, because I mean, you might get this if you pay a lot of money with,
Exactly.
Microsoft, etc.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
try to get support from Google if you use their like desktop product. It's impossible, and it actually comes for money.
Yes.
So the whole thing is for us as a small company that does this, that provides that kind of software. I
Understood.
think it's easier to actually go what I just described.
Understood. Understood. That's clear. So thank you for that clarification. Now, this category, the analysts refer to it as BOAT, business orchestration and automation technologies. And, it includes APN, Mendix, Microsoft, big companies, and, basically, expensive products. Is where you're trying to fit, we're open source, as long as you've got the technical capabilities, it's a relatively cheap niche? Or are you like, well, we've got all these individual solutions. So it's for somebody that's trying to build something that Mendix is too expensive because of just all the transactions you're going to be doing. And they're looking for somebody that has the telecom expertise that can help them build something that they can then automate around. I'm just trying to get a feel for the typical customers for Mation.
Yeah, it's a for us. I wouldn't call, like, for us, what we call customer is in the telco domain.
Yeah.
I can say we do have few actually paying customers who use it for non-telco
Oh,
topics,
cool.
and they it's because we work with them anyways, and they know that we can do this,
Okay,
and
gotcha.
they get it. Let's say they get it quite reasonable, let's
Hmm.
say,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
for interesting scenarios. But interesting enough, we then automated some telephony environment, etc. Suddenly, we came back to this, even in companies that are not from the telco industry, so they're from construction or
Yep.
other areas. So,
Okay.
and I would say for us, if we call it customer, then it is telco
Hmm.
most of the time. Out the community is all over the place, I would say.
Okay.
So the community is from like single developers using it for whatever they do,
Hmm.
to corporations, quite big sometimes even, right?
Okay.
Who fork this, who develop it into their own direction. It's the usual open source thing,
Yep.
and
Understood.
so it's for me, Mendix, right? Is Siemens
Yes.
is, and as far as I know, is the Mendix team pretty much is occupied with the internal business with Siemens. So acquired by Siemens and
Yes.
then swallowed up,
Yes.
and then deal with the internal
Yeah.
processes and integrations, and still serving customers. I
Hmm.
think it's a total different animal. So if we
Understood.
if you want to compare us, then maybe some companies like Active Pieces
Okay.
are interesting. They get some funding, so we're totally self-funded. So it's
Yes.
it's bootstrapped,
Yep.
and but that we can do this because we do develop software anyways, and we're a
Yep.
company with enough expertise to actually provide
Understood.
software. So
Okay. No, no,
and the
that's
others,
clear.
most of the others, they have funding. They try to get rich and famous with a lot of marketing and
But
a
it's
lot
a
of
mature
money.
segment. Yeah, it's a lot of money in a mature segment. That's the
Yeah,
issue.
yeah.
And when as soon as you say, sort of Node RED, it's like, okay, well, that's pretty solid and that's widely used. In fact, one of the topics that we've been covering is a sort of parallel open source project Erlang Red. I know you roll your eyes at me saying Erlang, but again, following the lead of what
They
Node-RED
built a
does.
Node-RED fork, did they, in
Yes,
Erlang?
yes,
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's powerful, and again, it's back to the team. It's basic. Jared, basically, he's a great engineer, and he basically loves Erlang and loves Node-RED, and basically created Erlang Red. And it's Jason from Tropo. He was so motivated after seeing the session we did, he built an Erlang, sort of application. And of course, it was easy because you have all this AI coding. So he didn't even need to learn the language. He could basically say, well, I need this built in Erlang, and then use AI coding tool to help him. But maybe that leads me on because there's several other questions I want to include. But how important is AI coding to the creation of Mation and its adaptation?
heavily. As you could imagine, we're a small team, right?
Yes.
And this is bootstrapped and
Yeah.
funded from our business.
Yeah.
So no investors around, no dependencies, but of
Yeah.
course, small, very highly educated team.
Yes.
And of course, we heavily use AI to support
And your
the
preferred
efficiency.
your preferred tool there?
Actually, it depends on the developer. And it's a
Oh.
that's a dangerous question because this could take now days to discuss, right? No, but our approach to it is that we try to keep it open to the actual developers.
Okay.
Like we provide internally context
Yeah.
for Anthropic models,
Yep.
and I would say this is the main environment we work with.
Gotcha.
But
Understood.
at the end of the day, the developers decide themselves the
Yep.
IDE they use, what can be integrated, and it's not always Anthropic,
Yep.
Claude, Opus, whatever,
Exactly.
but
Yeah.
it's the most common, let's say,
Appropriate.
at the moment.
Okay. Gotcha.
But we invested most of our additional effort on building agents and context
Yes.
to the product in those. Actually, one topic as well, we have internal discussions whether we publish this too. Um, but this needs further discussion
Yeah.
because it's quite interesting. Some people who actually use AI for open source projects, they as well publish their environments,
Hmm.
their context files,
Yes.
etc. And that, of course, would enable the community to actually develop it more efficiently because they don't
Exactly.
have to. They can just use the effort the core maintainer did already.
Hmm.
But we are not that far at the moment.
Understood. But yeah, I can see several companies moving in that space. And Jason Goecki, he's been promoting spec-driven development as a way of harnessing these tools. I mean, your view on that?
We do it basically.
Okay,
We start. It's
that's
all
what
it's
you've
all
done.
Markdown, so it all
Okay,
went to
understood.
Markdown
Gotcha.
processing, let's say, and
Hmm.
you have specialized agents in whatever kind of environment, and you start
Yeah,
with the specification,
gotcha.
and then you start having like tickets to be implemented,
Cool.
implement them, test them,
Gotcha.
harden them, improve them,
Hmm.
and even generate documentation. Then after
Yes.
it's good enough,
Yeah.
have a documentation generated, and then of course you can actually that's the only way to really be able to, with a small team of very experienced engineers.
Yeah.
This is a good way to provide complex and stable software, I would say.
Cool. No, that
But
makes
it all
sense.
starts with a specification.
Yeah.
It's actually it's interesting in my age that we go back to this all the discussions we had with agile and not specifying that much, talk about it, start
Yeah.
doing something. It's quite nice to be honest because you think about it, deeply
Yes.
think about it at the beginning.
Yes.
But of course, you need to be very experienced to be able to, and
Yep.
and and then you follow the good old software engineering process
Yes,
with new tools, and
exactly. Yeah.
that's good.
And it's, I mean, especially if you're following standards, those standards have specifications and it makes it very easy to adapt what has been created by the standards body into code. So, just one other question I had, it's sort of linked to customer privacy, because you make reference to GDPR compliance and to the German version thereof. The thing that I love with the VCON standard is consent and lifecycle management. They've got the whole process in terms of if I've given permission for my data to be used, I still have control. I'm just interested, whether you think that component, a part of VCON, could be relevant to Mation in customer data or business data.
We have done it's not published yet, but we have an
Okay,
integration to
cool,
VCON. So,
excellent.
I wouldn't call ourselves experts in VCON because it's evolving and it's the blockchain and it makes
Yep.
it complex, to be honest. And before we do not see like a real standardization, it's kind of a, let's say, kind of an R&D
Yep.
topic, evolving topic.
Okay.
Of course, the colleagues who actually talk about VCON, as you know them, they might see that different. But for us, it's we invested a little bit into it,
Understood.
integrated it.
Yep.
It is definitely interesting, but of course, it comes with quite a heavy technology stack
Okay.
with the all the features you mentioned, right, to
Hmm.
make it transparent and that a user can actually give permission and
Yes.
then take it away again anytime
Yes.
in the future, which basically is, of course, not really easy in many other situations. So to us, we think the only in telco with the telco regulations and the laws
Hmm.
in place, especially in
Yeah.
Europe, we think the easiest way of doing automation in a compliant way is host it yourself. And that's
Gotcha.
why that was one of the core patterns from the
Yes.
beginning. So we deal with like, to be honest, take Zapier, right? It's
Hmm.
from the beginning,
Yeah.
it's a hosted environment.
Yeah.
And to be a corporation going to Zapier and giving away all the credentials to the APIs of all the systems you have
Yeah.
is actually, to be honest, in Germany or Europe, you're halfway down to prison, right?
Yes.
To be honest, like from that, it's a cool product. It's a good product,
Yeah.
but from the compliance perspective,
Yeah.
there's actually, I would say, there's no way of storing for any European small or big company
Yeah.
to store the credentials of your systems. You have your company data in whatever it is, CRMs, ERPs, whatever. Right?
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
all in there, right? That you can
Correct.
automate them, but of course you have to give the credentials to the platform, and then the
Yes.
platform actually needs to be private. It cannot run on some AWS or whatever US American server in
Yeah.
Europe, right? In
Yeah.
the US, it's easier. It's okay. And I don't want to say it's not secure. I'm sure they pay a lot of attention to security.
Yes.
It's just the compliance part.
Correct.
It's basically against the law in some regions, let's
Yes.
say,
Yep.
to do this.
Exactly.
So from our perspective, we said from the beginning,
Yeah.
it's the
It's more
core.
private.
The
Yeah.
best way to keep it compliant is to host it
Yes.
on your own infrastructure.
Yeah. Which, yeah, absolutely makes sense. So, Sebastian, I apologize for geeking out with Martin because it's been a while since Martin and I
No
had a chance to
worries. It's
chat. So, I'm
yeah.
just interested. So, you're the customer. Why did you adopt Mation and what are the use cases you've been applying it to?
Yeah, in general, so I like what when you said earlier that is like the business orchestration automation technology for us. It started really as that. So and it's still the main focus. So it's not really like a separate product that you would come to us to buy, but it's
Yeah.
really a stack we employed next to the rest of our digital services platform. So
Yeah.
I work for the wholesale team, essentially building a platform. Started with CPaaS, now goes into traditional CPaaS, now goes into RBM as well as network APIs, identity APIs, and a few other things. And already with CPaaS, we were in it's customer expectations, right? So when you come in and you explain them, of course you have those that use CPaaS already. With them, it's fairly easy to. They either have a pain with their current supplier, or you offer some benefits on top. But with those that need CPaaS essentially in their chain, be it to communicate with their customers or to send a message or to engage, they need the APIs. But in a lot of discussions, it was clear they have the systems, but they didn't really know how to connect the two, or they didn't have the toolkit to connect the two. So they would have a hosted Salesforce, they would have even some data on-prem or some idea of a use case, but the expectation was that can be all easily connected. And so for us, even in the early days, I would use, we mentioned Node-RED, so it was not really something we had, but to show something quickly, I would just put this together and then in the end with saying, now you got to just build this, what we did here, it's easy. But then the problem started. You got to build it, you got to maintain it, you got to operate it.
Exactly.
So these were all things that added complexity. And so when we work with Marten on developing this portal, right, with Ava. So we discussed about it, and we started making it part of our stack. Started using it, and really saw that on one hand, so it's from a scalability perspective. So Node-RED from the architecture, front end, back end. At least for me, using it was not immediately straightforward how to put that in a scaled manner. We would have needed as well expertise from somewhere.
Gotcha.
The way it was built. So we looked into Mation. It had so the bring your own X was important for us. Yeah. We didn't want to be the AI provider. We didn't want to be, you don't need to buy Salesforce through us or Microsoft through us to use it. You bring your own credentials. You're responsible. We host it. We are bound to regulations of telecom, so there is a certain level of trust, but it's not just trust, it's also regulation. We have to
exactly
to keep the data secure, which is quite important. And so we would provide this to customers, and then it really we have obviously a lot of CPaaS providers were integrated. I did, I think, as well the SignalWire integration in the very, very beginning as a weekend project, and then in the end, we work with them on the telecom side, so we also have now our services part of it. So essentially, it's the set of Mation, the growing integrations, and then our services in it. And so if a customer would use the portal, they can use the APIs, they have access to all the services, but they can also easily log in and then compose from their existing telecom service, or even from multiple ones, as well as all the ones in there. They can compose essentially applications. Even as far now with one of the latest releases, even as far as front-end applications. So there's a forms feature, so you can even build simple interfaces, but very often it's essentially even bringing multiple APIs together, or even taking two of our APIs, getting attributes from here, from there, and composing a new API, and everything is a matter of configuration, right? We don't need to build products for that. We don't need to have we sometimes help customers do this, but it can all be done with, let's say, pre-sales or with engineering capabilities. But once we have it, we don't need developer capabilities for serving the needs of the customers, right?
Exactly.
So that was quite important. Obviously, the cost factor, right? The fact that we have, as Marten said, we are pumping volume. Yeah, we talk about large volumes. If we talk about generating VCONs and other stuff in flows where we have millions and billions of minutes and transactions. We needed something that's scalable technically, but also commercially.
Yes.
And as said, we don't. So for us, it accompanies the products. It's something that helps us sell more of the assets, like with CPaaS. For us, the CPaaS is also not a means in itself. It's a vehicle for the connectivity.
Exactly.
Right? We want to provide the connectivity. We want to provide it to customers who have certain requirements for privacy and for others. So we know we are not the fastest out there. We are the same way. We're not a Twilio, to name them. Yeah, Mation is maybe not a Node Mation, but it certainly has a place.
Yes.
And for what it does, it does this very well. It's very robust.
Yeah.
And also for us, of course, last but not least, the integration in our portal and platform stack was fairly easy. So we have branding included. We have when you provision an instance, it's preceding of credentials, all that stuff. So all the things we needed were doable with fairly little effort. So that was good. We knew the team. We knew also the competency in telecoms. Again, scalability. If you have really high loads that you need to process, you need to make sure IT requirements are sometimes a bit different, right? We really talk here about lots of volumes in short times and so on. So that was really important. But the building, we talk about a long time about this, not selling APIs, but selling products, or at least capabilities to solutions. Maybe it's not a product in a classical sense because it doesn't have certain things a product would have, but it's also not just an API that you take or leave, right? So it's somewhere in the middle, and Mation,
exactly,
in the flavor of our product called Workflow Automation, helps us exactly achieve this. So you're not selling an SMS API or a campaign manager, but you have capabilities. Adding it, for example, into Claude, you have your campaign manager, you give it a file, and it does all the rest magically through MCP.
Exactly.
Or you build a flow, and even you build a flow that orchestrates across 3 or 4 services, and you expose that through MCP. So all of a sudden, you could choose to, of course, go to all services independently and have AI do the logic. I think another interesting debate is the whole role of, and we've had this internally, of these types of tools where you have, let's say, explicit connections and flows versus MCP, where you throw a set of tools in and then you let the stack handle it. This works well, but it has limitations. And here with Mation, again, if we build a flow, a very a strict set of a concatenation of services. It's clear what you want to achieve. The function is clear. You make a tool out of it. You describe it well, and when you use it, it's almost deterministic in the way it's used. And also, once you call it, you know what happens. It's not like you have 5 tools and you always need to bet on how they're used, and how are different. There is not, at least my knowledge, not really an orchestration description of how multiple tools are used and when you use what. And so this is one of the things that we're able to offer here from an AI perspective. But I really think for us, being able to quickly build applications, have our service inbuilt was really the key factor. Plus, of course, the GDPR stuff. But this was, the previous sessions we had on CPaaS are valid here as well. We run it in our data centers. We operate it. It's not anywhere. So anyone bringing in their data, anyone running telco stack over it, we follow essentially the same GDPR and even common law regulations you have for healthcare and other traffics even. So
exactly.
You don't get it from the other, or you get it just for a lot of money. And here again, we wanted to make it part of the solution and accessible to everyone, because anyone who uses it to build something that helps them sends us traffic. We see the volume, and that's essentially what is really a differentiator, that you get directly that you have to telco. If you're a large originator, you don't want to go through aggregators, you want to go through us. And if we have things in our toolbox that makes it easier for you, that's just one more reason to
select Deutsche Telekom. Exactly. That's really good description. So this has been great.
Maybe
again,
if I can jump in with one aspect which I think is quite interesting. If you deploy such a approach internally, we're not just talking about integrations of, let's say, products like Salesforce, CPaaS, etc. It takes us less than a day to have a valid and stable integration to any REST interface. So you can look into any internal REST interfaces that would actually, for instance, are billing, provisioning, you name it. Like, there's so much, like if you look into such a platform, which Sebastian just mentioned in the wholesale area, of course, there's a lot of internal features, right? And they're all exposed via like internal interfaces.
Yes.
And you can just,
or even catalogs, like in our case. So we added an internal catalog, and all of a sudden, all APIs are accessible to anyone with the proper rights, of course. And the internal use case, that's absolutely right. We see that as well. And there is no platform existing internally, or if there is, then it's sold to our customers, which is totally fair. We have lots of good partnerships, and we are also partnering at that level. But really for internal use, and using some of the other capabilities that more and more internal teams are exposing, it's really one of the things that we added recently that helps us as well in our process of my team and or connection with the testers
Yeah.
and others and so on. Yeah, that's right.
And stuff like internal monitoring of technical infrastructures, alerting, and so you suddenly combine your Grafana,
Yeah.
the user management with the DevOps and the people in charge in an SLA
Yeah.
cascade, and you can, if something happens, right, you can send emails. If no one answers, you send SMS, and if no one answers, you call the people, right? So
Yes.
I know it's boring. I know it's boring, right? It's not shiny, it's not sales, it's not Salesforce, doing big business. But
Yeah.
to be honest, in a project, this is what you need to implement.
Exactly.
And then you have you have 3 different ticket or support systems internally. You have I don't know, half a dozen monitoring platforms.
Yeah.
They all have REST interfaces, right?
Correct. Yeah.
And I mean, sending email, SMS, or making a phone call is the core of what we do, right? So basically, with the risk of being boring here, that's basically the bread and butter
Yes.
that comes for free with, we, for instance, in Telecom project, we do a lot of notifications, let's call it,
Yeah.
of internal processes, right?
Yeah.
Where we say, whenever there is a new customer, notify someone in a whatever Teams channel, or send an SMS, or make a summary, and blah blah blah, whatever you make
Yeah.
in this area. And I think you can feel quite comfortable with having this on your own servers, right?
Yeah.
Because especially in GDPR and in the telco domain, you're not breaking any. Oh yeah, let's say it's easier not to break the rules if this is private, right? So
Exactly.
I would say if it's not private, it's almost impossible to really do it without breaking the rules. That's
Yeah.
maybe the
Yeah,
right way
yeah.
to actually put it.
To frame it. Yeah. Cool. No, this has been great. And it's, again, I've learned a lot. I love your documentation, as I've already shared, and how you basically guide people in terms of you can be basically Joe average, or you really need to be a developer. Small things when you start, basically looking at some of these integrations help save people time and frustration. So again, well done on the documentation. Well done in creating and having such a great customer, Martin. I'd say really is when you work so closely with them in creating both the product and these applications, and have them raving about how it's helped them in helping Deutsche Telekom satisfy their customers in terms of driving adoption. I think it's really great. So again, thank you so much, guys. Great to finally catch up with both of you after so long, and I wish you the best.
Thank you as well. See you.
Goodbye.
Thanks a lot.